He's just coming in now. I want you to listen very carefully, please.
My name is Arthur Kennicott. Mr. Brimmer's expecting me.
Oh, yes, sir. Would you go right in, please?
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Kennicott. You're right on time. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Would you care for something to drink?
Oh, some coffee, black.
I was just reading one of your papers. I see you've taken a stand on this federal judgeship that's giving everybody fits.
I'd rather not talk politics right now, Mr. Brimmer, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Henry. Well, this is your wife's file, Mr. Kennicott. And the fact sheet shows 5 weeks now of intensive surveillance. All movement, personal contact, telephone communications. It's really quite extensive.
And?
Mr. Kennicott, you have nothing to worry about. It's a clean bill of health.
You sure?
Well, I'm not in the habit of making mistakes.
Yes, I'm sorry, of course. But lately it's been like waiting for a biopsy report. Benign or malignant.
Well, in this case, benign.
I don't know which I feel most. Relief or anger?
Anger?
At myself. My idiotic suspicions. But I suppose when one marries a much younger woman, one tends to become a little paranoid.
Well, sometimes there's good cause. In this case, not. Read it at your leisure. There's not a hint of another man.
You know, it's funny. I love her. I love her very much. And I think I know her. But lately I could have sworn that... Well, it doesn't matter now. I feel so guilty I'm going to start showering her with gifts. She won't know what hit her. Mr. Brimmer, I owe you a great deal.
Well, it's a pleasure to set your mind at rest, sir.
Thank you. And you'll have my check in the morning.
That's very kind of you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Could you hear everything?
Yes.
You seem confused.
Well, I don't know why you asked me to come here.
I thought it was obvious.
No, not really. You...
What you're trying to say is that I lied to your husband. Well, that's correct, Mrs. Kennicott. I even went so far as to falsify the report. Would you like a glass of water?
No, nothing, thank you.
In point of fact, you were having an affair. The man's name was Archer.
It's over, Mr. Brimmer. But I'm sure you already know that. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake. But I ended it. And it won't ever happen again. Why didn't you tell my husband the truth?
Oddly enough, Mrs. Kennicott, I am a moralist. A vanishing species, so I'm told. 1,000 broken marriages come across my desk. Infidelities, domestic deceit. In your case, 10 years of marriage and one brief indiscretion. So why not bend the truth a little bit?
Then you're not going to tell him?
I haven't, and I won't. File's closed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brimmer. I'm so grateful.
How grateful. Mrs. Kennicott, a detective agency runs on information. That's our raw material. Your husband owns 3 newspapers, 2 on this coast and 1 on the east. Whenever anything happens on the inside of business or politics or even in the jet set.
I still don't understand how
Information, Mrs. Kennicott. It is our only stock in trade. For example, at the moment, I'm working on a case wherein it would be very beneficial to my client to have certain information about a federal judge that your husband is supporting.
Are you saying that you want me to be a pipeline to my husband?
No. Just a good listener. Is it really asking so much, Mrs. Kennicott? I can't do this kind of work alone. I need that kind of help. Why don't you think about it and then we'll talk again?
Your terrace door was unlocked, so I trespassed.
Well, there's no car in the front.
Oh, I thought you knew everything, Mr. Brimmer. We're neighbors. My husband and I have a weekend house about 3 miles from here. Ironic, isn't it?
Why are you here?
Well, why else? To discuss your, what shall we call it? Your proposition. I've been walking on the beach for hours, thinking.
And you've come to a decision.
Oh, yes. Tell me something, Mr. Brimmer. How many other rich men's wives owe you favors? Do they all capitulate easily?
I'm waiting for your answer.
Indulge me. I should think the blackmailee has some rights.
Mrs. Kennicott.
The answer is no. No deal. Is that plain enough for you? If you want a spy, you find someone else.
All right. I'll have to call your husband in the morning and...
And what? Tell him I had an affair? Sorry, it won't work. I'm going to tell him myself.
I can't believe that you'd want to do that.
Well, what you believe really doesn't matter, does it? It's what Arthur thinks that's important. Maybe he'll ask for a divorce, or maybe he'll forgive me. But it's time I was honest with him.
You're being very foolish.
Only if I lose. But you can't threaten me anymore, can you? You just lost your leverage. Oh, and one other thing. I'm also going to tell him about the way you run your business.
Wouldn't advise that.
I'm sure you wouldn't. Because whether he forgives me or not, he's going to despise you for lying to him. And Arthur's not the right man to have for an enemy. Good night, Mr. Brimmer.
Mrs. Kennicott, I want you to reconsider. Your husband has some very powerful friends.
That's right. Now, if you'll please excuse me.
I cannot permit you to do that.
Well, you don't understand. It's not your choice. Let go of me. Let go.
Mind telling us what you're doing?
I'd say that was none of your business, Lieutenant.
Well, if you say so, but, it's gonna be kind of hard to explain, isn't it? I mean, breaking and entering, that's against the law. Checking the trunk of your car, what in the world were you looking for?
Papers. Or a case. I thought they were here. It's an emergency.
Why did you admit it? You were searching the trunk because that's where you hid the body.
All right, what's the next step?
Why don't we go downtown and talk it
Am
over?
I under arrest?
I guess you could
On
say
what
so.
evidence?
I think it's gonna be more comfortable downtown.
All right, let's get this farce over with.
Grab his arms.
It was an accident, Arthur. It wasn't premeditated. I hardly knew your wife. I didn't want to hurt either one of you. It happened. How'd you get it?
I got it from the cut on her cheek in your ring. You never should have let me read your palm. 'Cause then I felt the ring and I felt the two diamonds sticking out in that raised rectangular border. That matched up with the cut on her cheek.
You should have taken that job.
To be your emergence at the top of the scene.
My emergence
Now,
at the top of the scene is done at
to play it with
exactly
more
the wrong
speed
moment.
and with more conviction. And you have repeatedly
Conviction?
ignored my requests. Now,
I
will
am
you
playing
please
it at
back
the
up
pace
and
that
do
I've
it?
always
We have
played
to
this.
open
I have...
Ah, Miss Dudley. More of your stupid notes, huh? Why don't you bring her back to my dressing room later?
Nicky?
No, better not.
Where the devil have you been? See the Queen! Look, we're an hour late now for the dinner break, and I would like to get this curtain up before midnight.
Don't worry, dear boy. It'll not be quite dark.
Oh, yes? Well, I've got at least 30 changes to argue with you, and Lily keeps insisting...
Argue? We'll do whatever you say. Aren't we always the little lambs?
Nick, are you smashed?
Pay no attention to him, darling. Directors are always hysterics.
My gracious wife forgives you. Now, off to the pub, everyone. Tonight's only dress rehearsal, remember? Well, what are you waiting to see? Clear out of our castle!
All right, everybody back in 1 hour.
Lily Mallow, how would you like to do A Doll's House, New York, next season, huh? Or star is a magnificent film at Sir Roger's expense.
Lover! gorgeous surprise. But you never come to dress rehearsal.
I think I managed to get in without being noticed.
But you couldn't stand not seeing me for another whole day, could you? Is anything wrong? You're not worried about this production of Macbeth, are you? We're going to get rave notices. Well, you know actors. We're all just children anyway.
Children?
Roger, I have the most perfect idea for Sunday. I was walking past Covent Garden. Nick'll never know. He'll think I've gone to visit my cousin with arthritis. So I got us 2 seats for the symphony. We'll be all alone in a box together. And then afterwards...
Afterwards? What do you think I am, you lying? You didn't buy those tickets today. Your husband did.
What?
And last weekend at Brighton. I suppose he arranged that for us, too. Not that our little rendezvous meant very much. You so conveniently had a headache.
Roger, old boy. This is a pleasant surprise. Lily, what a curious position.
You conniving panderer. You put her up to every bit of it.
He's gone out of his mind. He's come straight out of a Victorian novel.
And all just to lure me into reopening my theater, into backing you, and into playing angel to a has-been leading man and his aging ingenue.
Listen to him.
Lily, be quiet. Well, listen, Roger, I don't know who's been telling you stories, but if you're implying any misunderstanding of my wife's deep devotion to you, why, she looks on you as her own father, don't you, Lily?
No, that's enough. Today, I've finally realized, after all my years as a producer, I've simply been taken. Taken by a ham and a tart.
Roger, I'll forgive your nasty language.
You just help me decide. There won't be any Macbeth. I'm going out and tell the whole company. This play is not only cancelled, but I'll see to it that neither one of you ever works again on any stage.
Stop it!
Roger! Let go of me.
Stop it! Stop it, both of you!
Miss Stanhope, everything all right?
What? Yes.
Is Mr. Frame in there with you? We're about ready for curtain.
Oh, just a little family fight, that's all. We'll be ready. Dead.
Nick, I didn't mean to.
Well, of course you didn't, darling. Neither of us did.
What are we going to do?
I could tell them that he attacked us in self-defense, you know.
Sir Roger Havisham. Don't be so ridiculous. No one will believe that. Nicky, he said that no one saw him come in here tonight.
Places, please. First act places, Miss Stanhope.
Boy, man.
Why, Mr. Dirk.
Miss Stanhope, Mr. Frame.
Oh, Lieutenant. You're beginning to look exactly like a Londoner.
Oh, you mean this? No, ma'am. No, I just bought this. You see, ever since I've been in London, I've been thinking and thinking what would be the best souvenir to bring back to Los Angeles.
I thought you'd be on your way back home by now.
Right, but I sort of missed the plane. Anyway, it suddenly struck me, an umbrella.
Mr. Jones, did someone ask you to invite us here?
What are those curtains doing there? I thought we were going to get to see an exhibit.
Jones?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I'm dying to see it. After all that silly business we had modeling for it.
There you are, sir.
Quite remarkable.
Yes, it is.
Do I really look like that?
Marvelous. Let me tell you, I don't want to repeat myself, but the other night when I saw that performance that you two...
Dirk, will you please explain what we're doing here?
Why don't you ask the tour guide?
Well, what about the other one? Isn't Mr. Havisham ready?
Oh, yes, yes.
Sure you want to see this, too. It's part of the exhibit. Look at that. Boy, isn't that something? course, I didn't know him the way you folks did. I guess you were closer to him than anybody.
Poor Roger.
Kind of shakes you, doesn't it? Do you know they have stuff in the Chamber of Horrors here that actually makes my skin crawl?
Highly, it's disgusting. Putting him on display.
Oh, listen, I know how you must feel. And I sympathize with you. But you know somebody's been murdered, and you know what they tell me? They tell me folks around here, they kind of enjoy that sort of thing. You want to bet they hang up a figure of Mr. Tanner, too?
Most people, Columbo, have frightful taste, yourself included. And you'll have to excuse us. Come along, Lily.
Not just yet, sir.
Well, if you think we're going to play some sort of charade with this ridiculous...
See, Mr. Frame, I'm always getting you angry. I'm sorry about that. It must be my accent or something. But I wanted you here because I wanted you to help me prove something. I think I'll get rid of this. I don't think Mr. Tanner killed anybody like the newspapers are saying. I think it was you.
Oh, Lieutenant, just when I was beginning to like you.
This is going to sound silly, but Sir Roger, he was killed someplace else, and his body was moved later on. And if I can only prove where it was that he drove that night, prove who it was that he went to see, then everything will start falling into place.
Well, he did not come to see us. Now, how many times?
No, sir, not to your dressing room in the theater. It was to yours. That's where the umbrellas come in. I guess umbrellas are the kind of thing that I can understand. You know, I've been watching people to see what they do with umbrellas when they come in out of the rain. They close the umbrella, they give it a shake like this, and they find someplace to lean it against. But they never fasten this strap because then it won't dry properly.
Fascinating.
There's only one problem with that. Sometimes things drop in. Almost anything can drop in. So I got to thinking, if maybe that's what Sir Roger did with his umbrella, and something dropped into it that night, well, then maybe, got these things here somewhere. Just give me a moment, would you? Oh, forgive me. Amazing likeness, isn't it? Where was I? Oh, yes. Ma'am, the other night I stepped on a pearl in your dressing room. I have some more just like it. I got it from your costumer. She says she makes them.
Oh, yes.
Well, maybe, if the necklace was broken in a fight, like you said.
But that was Nicky and I.
Jones, bring us that umbrella, would you?
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, there's a chance, a pretty good chance, that if the fight was with Sir Roger...
No, it wasn't.
Well, there's no point speculating. Mr. Jones, could we move back just a little, give the gentleman room? Mr. Jones, would you open the umbrella, sir?
Why, it's the same. Exactly the same.
Well, ma'am?
Sir?
Sir. Sir. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. And tomorrow.
Nicky, stop it. He put it there. Can't you see before we came? He put it there.
Jones, has anybody but you touched that umbrella?
No, sir. I'll testify to that.
Then he must have done it when we weren't looking. Oh, Nicky, please!
Has lighted fools.
He was mad, don't you see?
Yes.
He didn't know what he was doing.
I know he didn't.
And Sir Roger, that was my fault.
I understand.
It was an accident. I swear it.
Struts.
Oh, Mr. Jones.
This is our Open the
Don't be
stage
too
and
hard
then
on
he's
Nicky.
heard no more.
You must try to understand.
It is.
Yes, well, I think we can settle all this at the yard. Smythe, will you take over, eh?
Very good, sir.
And Fiore? Tomorrow. And tomorrow.
Just one more thing.